welcome back to the channel. I just got a new watercolor book in the mail and thought I would unbox it. This is from Let's Make Art, which is Sarah Cray's brand. They have a YouTube channel where they basically do watercolor painting kit tutorials. So they basically sell the painting kits, but then there's a paired YouTube video essentially that will walk you through doing the entire project. So that's pretty cool. But I'd heard that she had done a book similar to, and the one I got was a landscape-focused one. Becca Hilburn did a more comprehensive review of Sarah Cray's general product line, so I'll link that below if you're interested in seeing. I think it's about a 2-hour deep dive. But anyway, from the description of Sarah Cray's floral book, the landscape book that I picked up sounds very similar. And I think a good comparison is this Dana Fox book. Dana Fox actually has a 3 books, I wanna say. But basically, they're consumable essentially because you have like a painting tutorial where you have one page that sort of explains what to do and tells you what colors to use. And then you basically have a page where you can replicate it. And if I go to one that I haven't done yet, basically what you get is a lightly printed line art essentially. It looks very much like if you did a graphite transfer. Also, not included with the book, but if you're using one of these style books that doesn't have a spiral binding, just a bulldog clip will help hold this together. In this paper, in this book, we'll see about Sarah's in a moment, but in this book, they claim that this is watercolor paper. As you can see, it's not, but it's a very slightly textured cardstock, essentially. It's probably about the same weight as like a Recollections cardstock, at least feeling it, maybe a little heavier than that, but somewhere probably in the 70-pound range. Um, and this book was $20-ish when I bought it, and it's still about $20. There is a version of this that is spiral bound that is more money because I believe the Sarah Cray books are spiral bound. Oops, we have all of our swatch cards falling everywhere. But let's take a look at this and see what we think. I really like doing landscapes, so that's why this book appealed to me. Also, yeah, there's nothing else in here. Very cute box though. I like sort of the faux watercolor and the colorway on this is really nice. Anyway, not that I'm a box person, but this is the landscape book by Sarah Cray. This is a Let's Make Art book, and it's a step-by-step project, volume 2. Volume 1 is the one that Becca reviews in her book, or sorry, in her video. And this is spiral bound, which is nice. The spiral bound version of the Dana Fox ones is about $30. So let us take a look at what we get. We have some preamble, which I will skip, but you have about 20 projects, I would say, which seems pretty reasonable. And then an outline section. The first book allowed you to buy essentially PDFs that you could print yourself. The Dana Fox book does not come with anything other than an index in the back, um, just as a point of comparison. Because I feel like I haven't gotten to the paper in this book, but I feel like these are a similar idea, where essentially the book itself is sort of a consumable. And sort of like the Dana Fox book, there's some basics, but you're not going to get quite as much as if you watch one of her videos, I don't think. Yeah, because you're basically getting like Dana Fox's book has a very similar vibe where you basically have like some basic brush strokes, basic blending. Sarah's book, I think, has more. I feel like the Dana Fox one basically has like, here's your color palette, and then sort of a testing, sort of one of these things where you kind of do whatever the particular sort of technique that's being demonstrated is. The way the Dana Fox books are set up is that they're like grouped by like wet on dry and wet into wet and ink and wash and that kind of thing. Um, this is quite nice. I like it. A little bit about masking fluid. This is nice. It's a really good sort of succinct overview, although it does feel more for someone who is familiar with this already. Here we see diffused tree line, a detailed tree line. Then we get into some color mixing, which we kind of talked about a little bit in the last video. Then we get into white clouds. The paint choices are all, and there's probably she probably sells a paint kit to go along with this. But basically, the Sarah Cray watercolors that I forget what the actual brand is called. It doesn't appear to be listed here, but her watercolor brand are liquid watercolors. To me, they are very much sort of like the PH Martin. They're that kind of a vibe. So, well, this is a beefier. This is a much beefier paper, so I will give her that to her. Much like the not to plagiarize Becca's video about the floral one, but essentially compared to a video, you're getting, like six things. You're getting like six steps and or five in this case. And it leaves you to fill in things yourself. I do like that this is perforated so you can tear this out if you want, if you'd prefer to tape it down and work on the paper or on like a flat surface like my mat here. Um, or I think this was one of Becca's suggestions in one of her videos. You can actually tape the watercolor paper just to like sort of a medium weight chipboard kind of a thing if you don't want to like sacrifice your mat because it can be annoying if you're doing a painting that's going to take a few drying steps to like necessarily like tie up your whole desk. This is much thicker. This is probably more like this is probably about 100 pound weight, I would say, and it is textured. It's sort of a cold press texture. We get sort of you get a much more detailed line art than in the Dana Fox book, which is pretty cool. I'm curious. I think that the bleed proof white referenced here is probably more of an opaque paint. I don't have her paint, and it would have been nice if she sort of would have included equivalencies. I want to say, who was it? The Art Sherpa, when she released her own watercolors, also sort of released like a conversion guide to basically say like, well, what is this? So like fuchsia is probably close to like a quinacridone magenta kind of a thing. Rose red is a sort of a pinky red. You could probably substitute in a pink. Obviously here we have sort of a couple different blues. This sea salt, which is a very light sort of bluish green. Forest green is probably like a sap green. Indigo is indigo. Azure blue and deep blue are probably, I mean, you could probably mix these from a single color. I would say the azure blue, I'm guessing azure is a little more ultramarine leaning, at least looking at it here. Let me bring this up to the camera. It's a little hard to see. They're almost, um, azure is almost more like somewhere more like a not quite a cerulean, but like a darker version of that, where deep blue is almost going more towards like a Prussian blue. Anyway, that's just to say, like, we'll just flip through these little. I don't need to show you the whole book because essentially it continues on. There's a heavy focus on clouds. Let's see what else we have. Then we go some trees. Well, that's interesting. There's a lot of specific trees here, which I wouldn't have guessed based on the title of this book. Yeah, there's a lot of specific trees. And then we get into kind of mountains by about a third of the way into the book. I'm just curious. These galaxy forests, these are actually easy to do. And it's a good way to play with splatter and salt and other stuff. Basically, you paint the whole the sky, and then you just put in trees with a dark color. Here, black. You can also use Prussian blue. Evening glow. This is a more I mean, I think we're getting into more complicated color combos as we go. And Galaxy, combination of a lot of things. Some reflections. So that's pretty neat. And then there are outlines of all of these, which I think what you could do is if you I guess you wouldn't have to take them out of your book. There's some space here. But essentially, if you use like graphite paper, you could trace these onto any paper you want, which is neat. Um, what else shall I mention? So I think this is book is a really good value for money. I really like the spiral binding. I think that definitely pluses this, and the paper is a pretty good quality. Um, for being essentially, you know, paper made out of trees. You may have opinions on if you really prefer cotton rag, you're probably just going to use the outlines and trace onto cotton rag. Yeah, so I think it's a pretty good value for money. She is running a sale. I will link to her website. I'm not affiliated or anything, but I did reach out to her customer service to ask about like showing her projects on the channel, and they were totally fine with that. The only caveat they said is that with any of the Let's Make Art stuff, that you're free to sell original works, but you are basically whatever copyright you have, and Linux is here to say hello. Basically, you can't produce anything digitally, meaning I can't, t- m- take using Sarah's material, create an original, scan it, and then put it on a T-shirt or a mug or a business card and sell that. So, FYI, if you are looking at her work, like if you had one of these and really liked it, there are some limitations about how you can active actually use things that you produce. That said, a lot of techniques, especially in landscape, you could just reproduce with your own reference photos, and that might be a fun thing to do in the future. Yes, hello, Mr. Cat. Because I have a whole bunch of reference photos, so I may bring one in and just sort of show you the process of sketching it out. Essentially, what you really want to do is sort of simplify it down to the pieces that you care about. Anyway, thanks for checking this out. Recommend this book. It looks really nice. It's definitely a step up from the Dana Fox books that I was using in terms of the paper quality. So I'm excited to see how it all works out for our projects for real. Anyway, talk to you guys later and have a good one.